Hello everyone. Tonight we are going back in time to a cold medieval monastery where your day begins before dawn and ends with a prayer. Picture this: the chill of the stone floor seeps through your thin straw mat, and the scent of last night's candle smoke lingers in the air. A single bell tolls somewhere above you, summoning you from dreams of warm bread and softer beds to the quiet life of devotion and discipline. You probably won't survive truly. Most wouldn't in this world of cold stone walls and strict silence. But tonight, you're going to try. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And let me know in the comments, what time is it where you are? And where are you listening from? Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along the worn flagstone corridor, your breath a soft cloud in the cold. The wooden door to the dormitory creaks as you push it open. Outside, the first weak light of dawn peeks through the stained glass painting the ancient walls in muted reds and blues. You wrap your rough woolen robe tighter around your shoulders and sigh, feeling the scratch of the homespun fabric against your skin. It's not exactly luxury, but it's what you have. The monastery is alive in the early hours. Quiet, but alive. The first bell tolls again, a low, mournful note that makes your chest vibrate with each slow ring. You can't help but notice the rhythmic sway of Brother Thomas, still half asleep, as he trudges past you. Lips moving in a silent prayer he probably doesn't remember starting. Historians still debate whether these early bells were meant to honor the divine or simply keep sleepy novices from dozing off. You follow him through the cloister, your bare feet cold on the stone. Though you're grateful for the numbness, it dulls the ache in your knees from yesterday's endless kneeling. In the courtyard, you pause for a moment, inhaling the scent of damp earth and the faint smoky tang of last night's fire. A flicker of movement catches your eye. A small mouse scurries along the base of the wall, whiskers twitching as it searches for crumbs from yesterday's bread. You almost envy its freedom, but then you remember that mice end up in the cook's pot if they're not quick enough. You slip into the chapel, where the flickering light of a single candle casts long shadows on the ancient wooden beams. The air is heavy with incense, a smoky sweetness that clings to the back of your throat. The brothers gather around the altar, their faces pale and weary in the half-light voices rising in a soft musical chant. The Latin words blur together, and you mumble along your tongue, slow to remember the verses you've been repeating since you arrived. The rule of Saint Benedict says you should greet each dawn with a humble heart and a quiet mind. But you're not sure if your mind is quiet or just numb from the cold. As you kneel, you try to focus on the steady rhythm of the chant, on the promise of a day begun in devotion. But your thoughts keep drifting. How long until breakfast? How many hours until the sun finally warms these stones? One of the brothers coughs a harsh, rasping sound that echoes in the small chapel. You steal a glance at Brother Robert the Infirmarian, who frowns and tugs his robe tighter. In this world, even a simple cough can be a death sentence, and you shiver at the thought. As the final notes of the chant fade into the ancient stone, you rise with the others, joints popping in protest. You're not supposed to notice the pain, but you do. And then you file out of the chapel, the dawn light a little brighter now, the promise of a new day stretching ahead. Outside, a crow caws from the cloister roof, black wings flaring against the pale sky. You pause to watch it for a moment, because even in this life of strict routine, there's beauty to be found in small things, like the shimmer of frost on the cloister arches, or the way your breath curls in the cold air. Brother Thomas bumps your shoulder as he passes a small act of rebellion in this place, where physical contact is rare and precious. You almost smile. Almost. Your first task of the day waits tending the garden washing in the icy basin, preparing the wooden table for the meager breakfast to come. But for now, you stand in the courtyard, the first rays of the sun warming your face, and you let yourself believe that maybe, just maybe, you'll make it through another dawn. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the scent of wet stone and wood smoke. The bell tolls once more, and you follow its call. Your feet sure on the worn path. The day has begun, and you are ready, at least as ready as anyone can be in this quiet, relentless world. You find yourself at the monastery's old stone basin. The water so cold, it burns your fingers as you splash it on your face. The rule is simple: no complaints, no shivering. Just another act of humble obedience, even if your teeth chatter like clattering rosary beads. The basin is worn smooth by generations of monks who came before you, each of them scrubbing sleep from their eyes in this same icy water. It's said the basin was carved from a single block of limestone by an unknown craftsman, though historians still debate whether it was local stone or hauled from some distant quarry in a cart pulled by weary oxen. Either way, it's as much a part of your life now as the scratchy robe on your back. You dry your hands on the rough linen towel, the fibers catching on your cracked knuckles. Then, you move on to your first chore of the morning, tending to the herb garden. You pad softly across the cloister walk, toes numb, but familiar with the path. The sun is just beginning to peek over the monastery walls, painting the world in gentle golds and pinks. It's beautiful, though your stomach is already growling in protest. The garden is small, but it's your world for the next hour. Rows of sage, mint, and rosemary fill the air with a sweet, earthy perfume. You kneel in the dirt, fingers already blackened with last night's frost. Brother Peter's voice drifts over the garden wall, droning on about the importance of composting, how even the scraps of yesterday's dinner can give life to tomorrow's harvest. You nod along, but your mind is elsewhere, thinking of hot bread and honey of the outside world, where feasts are rumored to stretch for days. A sudden gust of wind rattles the wooden fence, and you spot a small striped cat weaving through the cabbages. It's a monastery cat, of course, officially tolerated for its mousing skills, but unofficially loved for the soft purr it offers when you rub its head. You watch it for a moment, envying its easy grace. Then you rise and walk to the kitchen door, the scent of fresh bread pulling at your senses. Inside, the cook's apprentice is already hard at work, his face flushed from the warmth of the hearth. He glances up and smirks, handing you a loaf of bread so stale it could double as a doorstop. "Better than nothing," he says with a wink, and you grin in return. The wooden table in the refectory is plain and battered, but you take pride in setting it just so. A bowl of yesterday's stew for each brother, a wedge of hard cheese if you're lucky. You run your hand along the splintered surface, thinking of the countless meals served here, the soft murmur of prayer before each bite. An odd fact, the monastery's original table was supposedly a gift from a nobleman who spent a night here in penance for some long-forgotten sin. They say he carved his confession into the wood with a dagger, though no one's ever found the words. You trace your finger along one deep gouge, imagining the secrets held in that ancient grain. Brother Thomas appears in the doorway, carrying a basket of apples. "The Lord provides," he says, though you suspect the cook's garden provides just as much. You smile at the familiar phrase, a small joke between you both. "The Lord also provides cold floors and hard beds," you mutter, and Thomas laughs, the sound soft and warm. The kitchen is alive now, pots bubbling over the fire, bread cracking in the heat. You move between the table and the kitchen, carrying bowls, wiping spills. It's mindless work, but comforting in its rhythm. The outside world fades away, leaving only the scent of stew and the warm glow of the hearth. You catch a glimpse of yourself in a polished brass ladle, hollow eyes, hair cropped short, a face that seems older than its years. It's a face you're still getting used to, a life you're still settling into. But there's no time for reflection. Brother Robert's voice calls from the doorway, telling you it's time for prayers again. The first meal will wait. You bow your head, folding your hands in silent obedience. Another hour, another chore. In this life, there's always another duty waiting. You follow the gentle flow of brothers, moving into the chapel once more, their brown robes whispering over the cold stone floor. The heavy wooden door groans as it swings shut behind you, sealing you into the quiet heart of the monastery. In the flickering light of the candles, the faces of the brothers look gaunt and pale, like wax figures half melted in the glow. The chapel is small, but every corner seems to hum with the weight of centuries. The air tastes of old incense and damp stone, and the thick beams overhead seem to bend under the weight of your prayers. You take your place on the hard bench, the wood polished smooth by generations of kneeling. The prayer begins with a soft murmur, the Latin verses flowing like water. You stumble over the unfamiliar syllables, but it doesn't matter. No one really listens to the words here. It's the rhythm that matters, the endless drone that wraps around your mind like a warm blanket. You let the ancient words carry you away, eyes half closed, breathing in time with the chant. It's said that these prayers stretch back more than 1,000 years, whispered by monks long dead and half forgotten. Historians still debate whether the words were first spoken by a lonely monk in a mountain cave or copied from some distant Roman manuscript. But here in the flickering shadows, you don't much care. They're your words now, and they're enough. A sudden cough breaks the flow, a dry, hacking rasp from Brother Martin in the back row. You glance at him, your brow furrowing. Even the smallest cough can be an omen in a place like this. You wonder if the infirmary has enough willow bark to brew a proper remedy, or if he'll be another name softly spoken in the next prayer for the dead. The abbot's voice rises gentle but insistent, pulling your mind back to the present. He's an old man, his hair a halo of white, around a face lined with years of worry. He smells faintly of lavender oil and old wine, a comforting presence in the cold chapel. His voice is a lullaby and a warning, weaving stories of sin and salvation into this sleepy air. You find your thoughts wandering, imagining the outside world, where merchants shout in the market square, where roasted meats sizzle over open fires, and laughter flows as freely as the ale. A world of color and we're so different from this hushed stone sanctuary. But here you're safe from temptation, or so you're told. Your stomach growls a traitor in the silence, You try to ignore it, focusing instead on the flickering patterns of candlelight on the walls. One flame trembles, bending low, as if bowing to the ancient stone saints that peer down from their niches. Another dances merrily, as if it knows a joke no one else has heard. A brief oddity enters your mind. Did you know that in some medieval monasteries, monks would train bees to create honeycomb patterns that looked like tiny cathedrals? Probably nonsense, but it's the kind of stray thought that keeps you sane in the endless hours of prayer. The final verse is sung in a low, solemn tone, and you join in your voice a soft echo. As the chant fades, you rise with the others, the ache in your knees making you wince. No one speaks, and the silence is almost holy, almost, but not quite. The bell tolls a deep, resonant note that shivers through the chapel and into your bones. You bow your head, crossing yourself in the ancient gesture that binds you to this place. And then you file out the cold corridor, greeting you like an old friend. The day stretches out ahead of you, a tapestry of chores and quiet devotion. You know each hour by heart, each small ritual that shapes your life here. But for now, you walk with the brothers, your breath mingling in the chill air, and you find a certain comfort in the steady beat of footsteps on stone. You pass Brother Thomas in the corridor, his lips still moving in silent prayer. You give him a faint smile, and he nods, the only conversation you're allowed. In this world of silence, even a nod feels like a shout. You think of the prayer you just mumbled, how it promises peace and purpose, how it binds you to something larger than yourself. And for a moment you believe it. You have to. You pause by the door, taking one last breath of the incense-laden air. The next bell will call you to the Scriptorium, to ink-stained fingers and flickering candlelight. But for now, you savor the quiet, the soft hush of this ancient stone heart that beats slow and steady like your own. The bell tolls again, and you shuffle along the corridor to the Scriptorium, your fingers still tingling from the cold basin water. The Scriptorium is a small, cramped room lined with shelves of ancient tomes, their spines cracked and flaking like old bark. The air is thick with the scent of ink and beeswax, a comforting perfume of the written word. You take your place at a wooden desk, worn smooth by centuries of restless hands. A flickering candle sputters beside you, its tiny flame dancing with each breath of air that leaks through the stone walls. You dip your quill into the inky darkness, the scratch of metal on parchment, like a quiet song in the hush of the room. Your task is simple, though it feels monumental not be the sacred texts word by word, letter by careful letter. Your fingers ache with each stroke, but you find a kind of rhythm in it. Dip, scratch, breathe. It's said that a single mistake in these copies could change the meaning of an entire prayer, but your mind is foggy, your eyelids heavy. You wonder how many small errors have slipped through these walls hidden beneath the holy verses. Historians still debate whether medieval scriptoria were true havens of learning, or just sweatshops for the soul churning out the same words again and again to fill endless shelves. You suppose it doesn't matter. Your world is the flickering candle, the thin lines of ink that snake across the page, and the aching curve of your back. Brother Robert sits across from you, his head bent low, lips moving in a silent prayer, or perhaps in a quiet curse. You're never sure which. He glances up and catches your eye, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and grim determination. Slow and steady, he mouths, and you give him a wry smile in return. You pause to stretch your fingers, feeling the stiffness in each knuckle. The candle flickers dangerously, and you remember that these small lights are all that stands between you and the deep darkness of the stone corridors. In some monasteries, they say the candles were made with tallow mixed with herbs to keep away evil spirits. Here, though, it's just plain beeswax, pale and sweet-smelling faintly of the summer fields. An odd fact pops into your mind as you watch the wax-melt medieval monks sometimes used crushed crocodile scales mixed into ink to make it more permanent. You wonder if that's true, or just a story to pass the endless hours. Brother Thomas coughs softly, breaking your reverie. He leans over your shoulder, pointing at a smudge of ink. Careful, he murmurs, his voice a ghost in the flickering light. The abbot frowns on sloppy work. You nod and return to your letters, your eyes tracing the looping Latin script. Each curve and line is a prayer in itself, a small act of devotion that shapes the quiet hours of your day. You think of the world beyond these walls of kings and knights, of battles fought for reasons you'll never understand, and you wonder if your slow, careful strokes mean anything in the grand scheme of things. But for now, they mean everything. The candle, the ink, the parchment beneath your hand, this is your world, and you let it swallow you whole. Outside the Scriptorium, the wind howls through the cloister arches, a low, mournful song that seeps into the stones. You shiver and pull your robe tighter, the rough wool scratching against your skin. The flickering light seems to pulse in time with your heartbeat, a soft reminder that even here in the quiet hush of the Scriptorium, life moves on. You finish a page, setting it aside to dry. Brother Robert gives you a small nod of approval, and you feel a flicker of pride. The world may be cold and silent, but here in the careful shapes of ink and paper, you find a small spark of purpose. The bell will ring again soon, calling you to your next duty, your next quiet moment in this endless dance of prayer and work. But for now, you let the scratch of your quill fill the silence. Each letter a small act of faith in a world that moves too quickly outside these stone walls. The bell tolls for midday, and you stretch your back, feeling each vertebra pop in protest. Your fingers are stiff and smudged with ink, but there's no time to rest. You follow the brothers through the narrow corridors, your steps echoing in the hollow quiet. The sun is high now, the light streaming through the stained glass in soft rainbows that dance on the worn stone. The refectory smells faintly of smoke and boiled lentils. You slip onto a bench, the wood creaking beneath your weight. Before you, a simple meal, a bowl of lentil stew, thick with garlic, and a single hunk of hard bread. You say a silent prayer of thanks, though your stomach growls in protest. It's never quite enough, but it's what you're given. You eat in silence, the only sounds the quiet scrape of spoons on earthenware and the soft murmur of brothers lost in thought. Historians still debate whether this daily meal was truly a time for silent reflection or simply a way to keep the brothers from gossiping. Either way, the silence has a weight to it, like the heavy stones of the monastery pressing down on your shoulders. Brother Thomas sits across from you, his head bowed over his bowl. He's always the first to finish his spoon, scraping every last bit of stew from the bottom. You catch his eye and raise an eyebrow. He smirks, the closest you'll ever get to laughter here. The Lord provides, he mouths, and you smile, faintly. The bread is stale, cracking like old plaster in your mouth. But you chew slowly, savoring each bite as if it were a feast. You remember the market days in your old village, roasted meats, honey-sweetened cakes, the noisy laughter of the crowd, and you wonder how you ever traded that for this quiet life of devotion. A stray thought tickles your mind. Did you know that medieval monks sometimes used ale instead of water for brewing soup? It was safer, they said, and it probably made the stew taste a bit more interesting. You glance at your bowl and imagine it laced with warm, yeasty beer, a small rebellion in a world of endless rules. You finish your meal and fold your hands in your lap, eyes closed for a brief moment of silent thanks. The world slows down, the weight of the day settling into your bones. You feel the rough edge of the wooden table beneath your fingertips, the distant hum of the kitchen as the cook's apprentice scrubs pots. When you open your eyes, you find yourself studying the brothers around you. Each face is etched with the same quiet weariness, the same lines of discipline and doubt. You wonder if they dream of the outside world, or if they've found peace here in the endless rhythm of prayer and work. The abbot rises his voice a soft rumble as he offers a final prayer. You bow your head, lips moving in time with the others. The words taste familiar, though their meaning sometimes slips through your tired mind, like water through cracked stone. As the last syllable fades, the brothers stand as one, the benches scraping softly on the worn floor. You follow them out into the courtyard, the sun warm on your face. For a moment you pause, breathing in the scent of rosemary and damp earth. The world outside is bright and alive, but you're not part of it. Not really. Here your life is measured in prayers and simple meals each day, a quiet echo of the one before. Brother Thomas nudges your shoulder gently, a small shared moment of rebellion. Another hour, he murmurs, and you nod. Another hour, another duty, another prayer. But for now you savor the taste of lentils on your tongue and the warmth of the sun on your face. You stand in the silence of the courtyard, letting it fill you up before the next bell tolls, calling you back to the ancient rhythm that binds you to this place. You shuffle down the narrow corridor that leads to the small, dimly lit infirmary. The scent of lavender oil and damp straw hangs heavy in the air, a comforting balm against the musty chill of the stone walls. The door creaks softly as you push it open, the hinges complaining like old bones. Brother Robert is already there, his gentle hands busy mixing a poultice of honey and crushed herbs. He glances up as you enter, his eyes crinkling in greeting. "Come," he says, his voice low and calm. "We have much to do." The infirmary is a place of hushed voices and quiet pain. Straw pallets line the walls, each occupied by a brother lost to fever or the slow ache of old age. You move carefully among them, offering a murmured word of comfort here, a damp cloth there. Historians still debate whether medieval monasteries were truly places of healing or simply sanctuaries for the dying. But here you see both truths woven together in the flicker of candlelight. Brother Robert shows you how to grind the dried herbs yarrow for bleeding mint for easing the cough. Your hands smell of earth and old leaves, and you wonder at the power these simple plants hold. The Lord gave us what we need. Robert says, his fingers deft as he measures the bitter powders into a small clay jar. We must trust in his gifts, even if the world forgets them. You nod, though you're not sure if faith or desperation is the better remedy. You watch as he applies a poultice to Brother Martin's pale chest, the herbs pressed gently into the hollow of his ribs. The sick brother shivers, his breath rattling in his throat, like dry leaves in the wind. An odd fact drifts into your mind as you work. Some medieval healers believed that a toad dried in the sun and worn around the neck could ward off infection. You glance at the small worn crucifix hanging above the bed and think wryly that you're glad Brother Robert prefers simpler charms. The quiet of the infirmary is broken only by the soft crackle of the fire and the occasional groan of a patient shifting on his pallet. You find a strange peace in the work mixing herbs, washing fevered brows, whispering small prayers that feel both ancient and new. Brother Thomas slips into the room, his brow furrowed. "We need more bandages," he says, his voice low. Brother Matthew cut his hand in the garden deep. You follow him out the sun, warm on your back for a brief moment, before the heavy door of the storeroom closes behind you. You rummage through the rough linen strips, fingers brushing over the faint scent of beeswax and old soap. In this world, even a tiny cut can be deadly, and the weight of that knowledge settles heavy on your shoulders. When you return to the infirmary, Brother Matthew sits hunched, his hand wrapped in a blood-stained cloth. Brother Robert works quickly, washing the wound with vinegar and binding it with clean linen. The sharp tang of the vinegar fills your nose, and you wince in sympathy as Matthew bites his lip to keep from crying out. "Keep it clean. Keep it covered." Robert murmurs, his voice soothing as he ties the final knot. "And pray, brother. Pray that the fever doesn't come." Matthew nods, pale and silent. You catch his eye and offer a faint smile, though you're not sure who you're trying to comfort, him or yourself. As the work slows, you take a moment to breathe the weight of the day settling into your bones. You lean against the cold stone wall, listening to the quiet murmur of the brothers' voices and the soft rustle of the straw pallets. The world outside seems far away, the noise and chaos of the market square a distant memory. But here in the hush of the infirmary, you find a strange kind of purpose. Each herb, each prayer, each careful bandage is a small defiance against the dark. A reminder that even in this quiet place, life flickers on fragile and precious. The bell tolls again, a low note that trembles in your chest. Brother Robert nods to you, his expression grave but kind. "Go," he says. "The work here never ends, but neither does the work beyond these walls." You slip out into the corridor, the cold air biting at your cheeks. You leave the scent of lavender and old straw behind, carrying instead the weight of small, quiet miracles and the whispered prayers of the dying. You step back out into the cold stone corridor, your hands still tingling with the scent of herbs and vinegar. The bell's low measured toll fades as you follow the familiar path to the garden gate. Today the fields call you again, another ritual in the endless cycle of labor and prayer. The vegetable patch is a patchwork of earthy greens and browns, the soil damp from last night's rain. You take up the wooden hoe leaning against the wall, its handle smooth and warm from countless hands before yours. The brothers spread out among the rows, brown-robed figures, bent low in the thin winter light. The ground is soft beneath your feet, giving a little with each step. You push the hoe into the earth, feeling the satisfying crunch of roots and pebbles. It's hard, honest work, and there's a kind of comfort in the rhythm. Push, turn, pull. The earth clings to your robe, the hem damp and heavy around your ankles. Brother Peter stands nearby, his breath clouding in the cold air as he lectures you on the finer points of compost. A good pile, he says, poking a mound of dark, rich earth with a stick, is the difference between a feast and a famine. His voice has the same reverent tone he uses in prayer, and you smile at the thought that even manure can be holy here. Historians still debate whether the monks' compost heaps were a mark of spiritual devotion or simply practical survival. But in the sharp tang of rotting vegetable scraps and the deep, sweet smell of fresh-turned soil, you find a kind of simple faith. A small toad hops across your path, its skin the color of wet clay. You pause to watch it, its bright eyes blinking up at you. In some places they say toads are lucky, but here it's just another small creature sharing your world. You whisper a quiet blessing more out of habit than belief, and return to your hoe. Brother Thomas joins you, his hands all ready, dark with soil. Feels almost like spring, he says with a grin, though the wind still cuts like a knife. You nod, and together you work the rows, the silence between you, as comfortable as an old blanket. The sun climbs higher, casting long shadows that stretch across the rows of cabbage and leeks. Your shoulders ache with each turn of the hoe, but you welcome the burn. It's a reminder that you're still alive, still part of this quiet, relentless world. An odd fact drifts through your mind. Some medieval monks believed that planting certain herbs in the shape of a cross could protect the garden from evil spirits. You glance down at the tangled rows of mint and rosemary, the wild disorder of the garden, and smile at the idea of sacred geometry hidden in the dirt. Brother Peter waves you over, his hands wrapped around a basket of beets. "Take these to the kitchen," he says, his voice warm and tired. "The cook's making pottage tonight." You heft the basket, the earthy weight of it solid in your arms. The beets are rough and knobbly, their skins stained with the memory of the earth. You walk slowly back to the kitchen, the scent of the garden clinging to your robe. Inside, the cook's apprentice greets you with a grin, his face flushed from the heat of the hearth. "You're just in time," he says, taking the basket from your arms. "The pottage needs a bit of color." You watch as he drops the beets into the bubbling pot, the dark red swirling through the broth. The scent of onions and herbs fills the small kitchen, warm and comforting in the chill of the day. For a moment you lean against the doorway, letting the heat of the hearth soak into your bones. You close your eyes and let the gentle crackle of the fire and the low murmur of the cook's voice wash over you. The world outside fades, and for a heartbeat, you're content. Then the bell tolls again, its voice echoing through the stone halls. You open your eyes, take a deep breath of the warm, fragrant air, and step back into the cold. Another hour, another prayer, another quiet act of faith in this endless cycle. You slip away from the kitchen, the lingering scent of warm broth and roasting roots following you down the corridor. Your feet know the way by heart, each worn step guiding you to the monastery's most sacred and secret place, the library. It's a haven of quiet, in a world that rarely speaks, a small sanctuary of parchment and ink. The heavy oak door creaks softly as you push it open. The library is cool and dim, the only light coming from narrow windows set high in the thick stone walls. Dust motes drift lazily in the slanting light, dancing like tiny spirits in the hush. You pause at the threshold, breathing in the scent of old vellum and beeswax polish. The air feels thicker here, alive with the whispers of centuries. It's said the library was built on the ruins of a pagan shrine, though historians still debate whether that's just a story whispered by bored novices to pass the long nights. Your fingers brush the edge of a shelf, the rough grain of the wood worn smooth by the passage of countless hands. The books are treasures, some copied by your own brothers, others gifted by wealthy patrons seeking salvation through generosity. Each one is a small miracle, a testament to the power of words in a world of silence. You slip between the rows, your fingertips trailing over the cracked spines. A bestiary catches your eye, its cover decorated with faded gold leaf that glimmers softly in the gloom. You lift it from the shelf, the weight of it, a comforting presence in your hands. Settling into a narrow bench, you open the book carefully, the vellum pages whispering as they turn. The illustrations are bright, even in the dim light. Dragons coiled in tangled knots, lions with manes like molten gold, and birds that shimmer in impossible colors. You smile, tracing the lines with a reverent finger, the wonder of the world captured in these careful strokes. An odd fact flickers through your mind. In some monasteries, the monks believed that reading too much could damage your eyesight and even your soul. You chuckle softly, imagining your soul growing thin and watery, like bad ink from too many hours spent here. You turn another page and find a strange beast, a unicorn, its spiral horn gleaming its eyes wide and knowing. Brother Peter once said that the unicorn was a symbol of purity, but you suspect it's also a symbol of stories of the hope that somewhere there's still magic in the world. The hush of the library is deep and gentle, broken only by the distant tolling of the bell and the soft rustle of pages. You lose yourself in the illustrations, the words fading into a gentle hum beneath the soft glow of the candles. For a moment, the weight of your vows, the cold ache of your joints, the endless toll of bells, all of it fades away. Here, there is only the quiet magic of ink and parchment, the delicate lines of a world that lives only in the mind. Brother Thomas's voice drifts through the shelves, a soft murmur, as he reads from a battered psalter. You smile, knowing he's as lost in the words as you are. Here, you're allowed to forget the hard edges of the outside world, to slip into the gentle rhythm of stories and prayers. You close the book and return it to the shelf, your fingers lingering on the cracked leather for a moment. The library has its own kind of prayer, one spoken in the silence between words, in the soft crackle of vellum turning beneath your hand. As you leave, you pause at the threshold once more, taking one last breath of the cool, dusty air. The world outside is waiting chores, prayers, the endless cycle of dawn and dusk. But for now, you carry the memory of dragons and unicorns, of the quiet sanctuary hidden behind these ancient walls. You leave the library behind the soft glow of candlelight, fading as you walk back into the cool corridors of the monastery. The sun has begun to sink lower in the sky, painting the stones in warm amber and soft gold. It's Vespertide, the hour of confession and gentle reckoning. You find yourself outside the abbot's small chamber, its wooden door carved with a simple cross. You pause, taking a slow breath before slipping inside. The room is spare and warm, a single candle flickering on the rough wooden table. The air smells faintly of lavender and the sweet tang of old wine. Father Abbot looks up as you enter, his eyes soft with kindness. His hair is white as fresh snow, and his face is creased with the weight of years and quiet wisdom. "Come," he says in a voice that's more invitation than command. "Sit, brother." You kneel beside him, the straw mat scratchy beneath your knees. You fold your hands and bow your head, the words of confession already trembling on your lips. The abbot's voice is a soothing murmur guiding you like a steady hand through the labyrinth of your thoughts. You speak of small sins, of envy for Brother Thomas's quick smile, of the ache of longing for the taste of honeyed bread, of the half-remembered dreams that haunt you in the quiet hours of the night. Each word is a pebble lifted from your soul. Each confession a small surrender to the quiet mercy of this life. Historians still debate whether these confessions were meant to cleanse the soul or to keep the brothers bound to the strict rule of silence and obedience. But here in the flickering half-light, it doesn't feel like control. It feels like release. Father Abbot listens, his eyes half closed, his head nodding with each small truth you offer. When you fall silent, he rests a gentle hand on your shoulder, the warmth of his palm a balm against the chill. "We are all weak," he says softly. "Even the strongest among us carries doubt. Remember that, brother." He smells faintly of lavender oil and the dusty pages of ancient books, and you lean into that comfort, grateful for the quiet strength he offers. An odd fact slips through your mind as he speaks in some monasteries. It was believed that the abbot's blessing could cure more than just spiritual ailments. It could mend a broken bone or still a fevered cough. You almost wish it were true. He murmurs a prayer over you, his voice a low chant that seems to echo in the small chamber. The words are old, older than the monastery itself, and you let them wash over you, each syllable a promise of mercy and hope. When he finishes, he presses a small wafer of bread into your hands, a simple symbol of forgiveness, though it tastes like dust and old grain. You accept it with a nod, your head bowed in gratitude. "You are not alone," he says as you rise, his voice a quiet benediction that follows you out into the corridor. "None of us are." You step back into the fading light, the air cool on your face. The brothers are already gathering in the cloister for the final prayers of the day, their voices a soft murmur that drifts like mist through the arches. As you walk to join them, you feel lighter. Somehow the weight of your small confessions balanced by the quiet strength of the abbot's gentle words. You know there will be more days of doubt, more nights of restless sleep and silent longing. But for now, you carry the simple comfort of his blessing in your chest, a warm glow against the growing dark. You join the brothers as they gather in the refectory, the long wooden tables set simply with rough earthen bowls and small chipped cups. The scent of the pottage, thick with beets garlic and a hint of wild thyme, drifts in the warm air, a comforting perfume that wraps around you like an old cloak. You take your place on the bench, the wood worn smooth by countless quiet meals. Around you, the brothers bow their heads, hands folded in silent prayer. You murmur along with them the words soft and familiar on your tongue. There's no ceremony, no grand ritual, just the shared hush of men who've chosen to trade the noise of the world for the soft echo of ancient verses. The pottage is ladled out carefully, each bowl brimming with the same humble offering. Brother Thomas catches your eye, his lips twitching in a small smile as he slides a crust of bread across the table to you. "The Lord's bounty," he mouths, and you snort softly, biting back a grin. You dip the bread into the steaming broth, the crust softening in the warm liquid. The taste is simple, earthy with the faint bite of garlic and the sweetness of the beets. It's nothing like the feasts of the outside world, but here in the quiet of the refectory, it's enough. Historians still debate whether the simple meals of the monastery were a sign of spiritual humility or just the result of limited resources. But as you chew the soft, mealy bread and let the warmth of the pottage fill your belly, you decide it doesn't matter. In this small bowl, there's comfort, and that's enough. The meal passes in silence, punctuated only by the gentle scrape of spoons on clay and the soft sighs of the brothers. You let your mind drift with each mouthful, remembering the world beyond these walls, the bright colors of the market stalls, the laughter of children chasing geese down muddy lanes, the sweet tang of apples stolen in the orchard. You wonder for a moment if those memories are dreams, now half-forgotten tales that have no place in the hush of the monastery. But then Brother Peter shifts beside you, the rough wool of his robe brushing your shoulder, and you're reminded that here you're part of something older and deeper than any market square or orchard chase. An odd fact drifts through your mind. Did you know that medieval monks believed in the power of quiet meals to soothe not just the body, but the soul? They said that in the stillness of shared silence, you could hear the voice of God more clearly. You're not sure you've ever heard that voice, but the quiet feels sacred all the same. As you finish your meal, you set your spoon down with care, the small act of placing it just so, a final prayer of sorts. You fold your hands in your lap, the faint ache in your shoulders, a gentle reminder of the long hours of labor and the slow rhythm of this life. Brother Robert rises, his voice soft as he speaks the final blessing. The words drift over you like a warm breeze, and you bow your head in quiet agreement. You know the day isn't done, not yet. There are more prayers to be spoken, more silent hours to be kept. But for now, you stand with the others, the scrape of benches and the shuffle of feet, a small shared music. You step back into the corridor, the air cool against your warm face, and let the last light of day wash over you. The world outside the monastery fades with the setting sun. But here in the quiet, you find a kind of peace. The bell will toll again soon, and you'll answer its call. But for this small moment, you carry the warmth of the pottage and the soft murmur of ancient blessings in your heart, a quiet comfort in a world that moves slowly but never stops. The shadows lengthen in the cloister as you step back into the chapel for Compline, the final prayers of the day. The air is heavy with the scent of beeswax and incense, the faint traces of lavender clinging to the worn wooden pews. You take your place among the brothers, your breath a soft cloud in the flickering candlelight. The chant begins low and steady, a gentle tide of Latin syllables that wraps around your thoughts like a warm blanket. Your voice joins the others, though it's little more than a whisper by now. Your throat rough from the day's quiet murmurs. The words are as familiar as your own heartbeat, an ancient litany that has echoed through these stones for centuries. Historians still debate whether the evening prayers were meant to lull the mind into calm or to remind it of the fleeting nature of the world beyond these walls. But here in the hush of the chapel, you find a kind of calm that feels both fragile and eternal. Your eyes wander over the stained glass, the colors muted in the candlelight, but still rich with the memory of the sun. A small figure of Saint Benedict stares back at you, his hand raised in gentle blessing. You wonder what he'd think of your clumsy Latin, your stumbling feet on the cold stone floor. The chant flows on, and your mind drifts with it. You remember the story Brother Peter told you once about a monastery in the far north, where the brothers trained a goose to walk in processions with them. An odd fact, maybe, but you like to think of that goose waddling proudly in line, a small miracle in a world of solemn vows. The final prayer rises and falls like a slow breath, and you close your eyes, letting it wash over you. The candle flames flicker in time with the chant, tiny dancers in the still air. You feel the weight of the day slip from your shoulders, replaced by the soft hush of shared devotion. The abbot's voice is the last to sound his words, a quiet benediction that seems to hang in the air long after the final note fades. You bow your head, the scratch of the robe against your neck, a small, comforting irritation. You've grown used to these rough edges, these small discomforts that shape the contours of your life here. As the brothers file out into the cold night, you linger for a moment, your hand resting on the worn wood of the pew. You let the silence fill you up, a soft echo of the prayers that have shaped this day and all the days before it. You step into the cloister, the air cold and sharp, the sky above a deep indigo streaked with the first pale stars. The night smells of wet stone and distant smoke, the world outside the monastery walls, a mystery that no longer feels urgent to solve. Brother Thomas stands beside you, his breath misting in the chill. He nudges you gently with his shoulder, a silent question in the tilt of his head. You smile faintly, the corners of your mouth cracking in the cold. Almost done, you murmur, your voice low and warm. The bell will toll once more before the night is through, a final call to prayer that will draw you from your bed like the tide. But for now, you walk the cloister with the others, your steps soft and measured on the ancient stones. The chant still hums in your mind, a soft music that follows you into the quiet night. You think of the hours to come of the night watch, and the soft rustle of straw, of dreams that slip through your fingers like smoke. And in that soft darkness, you find a small, quiet hope, a flicker of light that burns steady, even in the cold. The night air bites at your face as you slip into the long cloister corridor, your breath a pale mist in the cold. The monastery is hushed, the echo of the evening prayers still lingering in the quiet. Your feet move softly on the worn flagstones, each step a small prayer of its own. Tonight, it's your turn to keep the night watch. The wooden staff feels rough and comforting in your hand, the worn wood polished by years of quiet patrols. You wrap your robe tighter around you, the scratchy wool, a thin barrier against the chill. The cloister arches rise above you, their shapes sharp in the pale moonlight that slips through narrow windows. You pause at the first arch, your eyes adjusting to the deep shadows. The silence here is deep and patient, a soft breath that seems to fill the ancient stones. An odd fact drifts through your mind as you walk in some monasteries. The night watch was said to be a time when demons were closest to the world of men, slipping through the darkness to whisper doubts in the ears of the faithful. You glance at the deep shadows in the corners, half amused, half wary. No demons tonight, just the quiet rustle of your robe and the soft creak of the wooden staff as you lean on it. The monastery feels different at night, older, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. You pause at the small chapel door, the scent of beeswax and incense still clinging to the wood. The flicker of the sanctuary lamp is a single ember. In the darkness, a quiet promise that even in the deepest night, the light never truly dies. You move on the rhythm of your steps, slow and even. You think of the brothers sleeping in their narrow beds, their dreams soft and quiet beneath the heavy blankets. You wonder what they dream of lost loves and warm hearths, or of the gentle hush of the sea that no one here has seen in years. You lean against a cold pillar for a moment, letting the silence wrap around you. The moon hangs low in the sky bright, and round its light silver on the cloister walls. You breathe in the night, the sharp scent of frost and old stone filling your lungs. Brother Peter joins you briefly, his own staff tapping softly on the stones. He nods in greeting, his eyes tired, but kind. "Cold enough to freeze your prayers," he says with a faint smile. You chuckle, your breath clouding the air between you, and he disappears again into the shadows, the soft murmur of his footfalls fading like a sigh. Historians still debate whether these night watches were a practical measure to guard the monastery's treasures, or a test of spiritual endurance, a chance to face the darkness with nothing but a prayer and the cold bite of the night. You think it's both, and you find a kind of comfort in that balance. You reach the far end of the cloister and pause listening to the soft hum of the night. An owl hoots somewhere in the distance, a lonely sound that echoes in the hollow darkness. You lean on your staff, your eyes half closed, and let the quiet settle into your bones. The cold seeps deeper as the hours slip by, but you find a certain peace in the slow rhythm of your watch. Each step is a reminder that you're part of something older than yourself, a single breath in the long life of the monastery. You move slowly back down the cloister, the moonlight casting long shadows that dance around your feet. The world beyond these walls is a mystery, a place of bright lights and sharp voices that feels both impossibly distant and heartbreakingly close. But here in the soft dark, you find a small, steady flame of devotion flickering but unbroken, a quiet light in the endless night. The night watch ends with the first gray glimmer of dawn, the cold air heavy with the promise of another day. You slip back into the dormitory, the ancient wood door closing softly behind you. The air here is warmer thick with the scent of straw and the quiet breath of the sleeping brothers. You tiptoe past the rows of narrow beds, each one a small island of silence in the hush of the dormitory. Your own bed waits in the corner, a simple straw mat and a thin wool blanket, the same as it was yesterday and the day before. You kneel for a brief prayer, more a habit than a thought, and then lower yourself onto the mat, your body aching from the long night. Your mind drifts as you close your eyes, the quiet of the monastery wrapping around you like a second blanket. The rhythm of the day, the bells, the prayers, the soft murmur of voices plays in your head like a half-remembered song. Historians still debate whether this endless cycle was meant to crush the will or to free it from the world's noise. But as you lie in the cold dawn light, you think it might be both. Your thoughts wander, slipping through the cracks of your weary mind. You remember your old life before the monastery, the muddy streets of your village, the sweet tang of cider on your tongue, the laughter of friends around a warm fire. They feel like another lifetime, another self that no longer fits in the quiet rhythm of these ancient stones. An odd fact drifts through your mind. Did you know that some medieval monks believed that dreams were messages from God? That each flicker of vision behind closed eyelids was a glimpse of divine purpose? You smile faintly at the thought, your fingers curling into the scratchy wool of your blanket. Your body is tired, but your mind refuses to let go. You think of the bell that will soon call you back to the chapel of the long hours of prayer that will stretch ahead like the quiet flow of a river. You wonder if the dreams that come to you now, strange and shifting, half-formed, are messages or just the restless wanderings of a mind that's forgotten how to be still. You turn onto your side, the straw mat rustling beneath you. The pale dawn light filters through the narrow window, painting the rough stone walls in soft gray. You watch the light move slow and gentle, like the breath of the world itself. The brothers around you begin to stir soft murmurs, and the quiet rustle of robes breaking the silence. You close your eyes and let the sound wash over you, a gentle lullaby of devotion and duty. There's comfort in this shared waking, in the knowledge that you're not alone in the slow, patient rhythm of the monastery. You drift in and out of sleep, your dreams a soft blur of half-remembered prayers and bright, impossible colors. You dream of warm bread and honey, of laughter echoing in the cloister, of the sweet scent of roses in a summer garden. The dreams fade as quickly as they come, leaving only a faint ache of longing behind. When you finally open your eyes again, the light has grown brighter. The world outside the monastery, waking in slow ripples of color. You sit up slowly, your joints stiff, and your mind heavy with the weight of dreams and doubts. The bell will toll soon, and you'll rise with the brothers, your step soft and sure, on the cold stone floor. For now, though, you take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the cool, sweet air of dawn. You let it settle into your bones, a quiet promise of another day, another chance to find meaning in the small acts of devotion and the steady rhythm of this ancient life. The dawn light has fully arrived, and with it, the bell tolls again, a low, solemn note that rolls through the quiet corridors like a sigh. You rise from your mat slowly, your muscles stiff from the cold and the long hours of the night watch. The brothers move around you, a silent procession of brown-robed figures slipping into the rhythm of another day. You shuffle into the chapel for the midnight office known here as the final prayer before sleep, though dawn has already crept in. The candles flicker softly, their light a fragile glow against the darkness still clinging to the ancient stones. You take your place, your breath mingling with the faint scent of beeswax and cold air. The chant begins low and soft, the Latin words winding through the shadows like a gentle river. You join in your voice, a quiet thread in the tapestry of devotion. The words are worn smooth with repetition, but they still hold a kind of quiet magic, a promise that even in the deepest night, the light endures. Historians still debate whether this final prayer was meant to guard against the fears of the dark or to mark the end of the day's burdens. But here in the hush of the chapel, it feels like both a soft murmur of hope in a world that can be so relentlessly cold. You close your eyes, letting the rhythm of the chant wash over you. The weariness in your bones eases a little, your mind slowing like a candle's flicker in the still air. For a moment, you almost forget the ache in your knees, the cold bite of the floor beneath you. Brother Thomas's voice is clear beside you, his tone a soft comfort that wraps around your thoughts. You lean into that warmth, a small moment of shared humanity, in the long hush of the night. The final prayer of the office is a whisper, a benediction that fades like mist in the morning light. As the prayer ends, the brothers rise, their movements slow and deliberate. The candles are snuffed one by one, the darkness deepening around you. You walk out into the cloister, the chill of the early morning seeping into your bones. The world is quiet, the only sound the soft shuffle of feet and the distant murmur of the river beyond the monastery walls. An odd fact comes to you as you walk in some medieval monasteries. It was said that the final bell of the night was rung to chase away not just the darkness, but the memories of the world beyond these walls. You smile faintly at the thought, the idea of memories fleeing into the cold dawn light. You pause for a moment, breathing in the scent of cold stone and damp earth. The sky above is a soft gray, the first hints of blue, promising a new day. The world feels both impossibly wide and close enough to touch each breath, a quiet prayer of its own. Brother Peter joins you for a moment, his eyes bright in the faint light. "Sleep will come," he says, his voice low and sure. You nod. Though you know sleep is a fragile gift here, as fleeting as a candle's flame in the cold draft of the cloister, you return to the dormitory. The narrow rows of beds, a soft comfort in the lingering darkness. You slip beneath your scratchy blanket, the straw mat rustling beneath you. The final prayer still hums in your mind, a soft echo that lulls you toward the edge of sleep. Your eyes flutter closed, the world fading into the gentle rhythm of your breath and the faint sigh of the wind beyond the walls. You let the darkness take you, a quiet surrender to the soft pull of rest. You drift into sleep slowly, the last notes of the final prayer still echoing in the quiet of your mind. The straw mat creaks beneath you as you turn onto your side, the scratchy wool blanket tugging at your shoulders. Outside, the world is slipping from night to day, the faint gray light of dawn creeping in through the narrow window. You close your eyes, the faint scent of beeswax and old stone wrapping around you like a comforting cloak. In the hush of the dormitory, the brothers breathe softly, their dreams drifting like smoke above the quiet rhythm of sleep. You wonder what they dream of: fields of green, warm bread and honey, the soft laughter of a distant memory. Your own dreams come slowly slipping in, like a gentle tide. You see the garden in full bloom, bright with the colors of late spring. You see the flicker of candles in the Scriptorium, each tiny flame a promise of devotion. You hear the soft murmur of prayers, the quiet heartbeat of this ancient life. Historians still debate whether these dreams are the mind's way of finding solace or the soul's way of wandering, but here they feel like both. In the darkness behind your eyelids, you see the faces of the brothers, tired kind, worn by the rhythm of prayers and silence. You see the worn wooden tables of the refectory, the soft glow of the library's candles, the endless stretch of the cloister at night. An odd fact flickers through your mind in some medieval monasteries. They believed that dreams at dawn carried the weight of prophecy. You smile faintly in the half-light, the thought a small comfort against the ache of the cold. The last echoes of the final bell fade into memory, and you let yourself slip deeper into the hush of sleep. Your breath evens out, slow and steady, matching the ancient rhythm of the monastery's heartbeat. The world beyond the walls fades, markets and laughter battles, and bright colors all slipping into a soft blur of quiet devotion. You turn in your bed, the straw rustling beneath you, and pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders. The faint light of dawn glows softly on the rough stone walls, a promise of another day waiting to be shaped by the quiet acts of prayer and labor. In this small, silent moment, you find a fragile peace, a fleeting, precious breath of comfort in a world that never truly rests. You drift in that quiet, your mind, a soft hum of prayer and dream. You let yourself go, sinking into the warmth of the scratchy blanket. The faint smell of lavender and beeswax, your final memory of the waking world. And in that gentle darkness, you find sleep at last, the hush of the monastery wrapping around you like a final blessing.